Hey!
Hi, Clem.
Hi!
You and your A friend.
Well, I figured I should.
It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Has been a while.
I know. How are you holding up during this quarantine?
Well, it's not too bad. I mean, online classes are easy and boring, I would say, but it's alright.
Especially
And
for
then,
you. You love a challenge.
yeah. And then, it's pretty nice to be quarantined on the ranch just because I can still hang out with people
Yeah.
uh, and just like ride and hike and stuff. So it's really nice.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's one thing that my dad told me last week. He said, you know what? Being in Wyoming was really good practice for a quarantine because you were only around a certain amount of people and you didn't really leave a whole lot. He's like, you're right. We got this. This ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so happy that we're meeting today. I guess I should give some backstory to whoever will see this. Clem and I met last year in Wyoming when we worked on a ranch together. And Clem, you are one of my favorite people in the entire world because, first of all, you are such a badass. So Clem left France by herself to study in the US because she wanted to. And I just think you are so strong and so independent, and I just love you. You are not one to talk a lot about yourself, so I know that you're turning red right now, but I just had to let people know how amazing
Well, thank you.
you are. You are welcome. So one of my fondest memories of you, Clem, was last year, anytime we had any sort of a break, a random weekend or a random night off, the first thing you did was invite people to have crepes with you. And I just love that it's such a special food to you, and it clearly brings back so many great memories for you. So first of all, I'm sorry if I'm using my American accent and saying crepe.
It's all right.
How do you say it correctly?
Oh, so correctly, it's crepe. So the R is like the worst part for the Americans, just because it's so different how we pronounce it. But yeah, you kind of have to roll your R, and so that just like crepe. Which yeah.
Did I nail it?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's getting better.
Thank you. So I think I'm just gonna call it, which is least offensive, crepe or crepe?
The second one is better.
Crepe. All right. I'm gonna try to say that. All right, crepe. So I did a bunch of research because I wanted to be prepared for this conversation. Do you think that sweet versus savory fillings are better for crepes?
Well, the way I do mine, I can use them for like sweet and like I'd say like I like my crepes. I can eat them for like as lunch or as a dessert. Because I only use like 3 ingredients: flour, milk, and eggs, and that's it. It doesn't really matter which milk you use. I mean, it can be whole milk or 2%. In France, not a lot of people make that difference. They just use any milk. Traditionally, the crepe that you're gonna use for like a meal and not a dessert, you're gonna use a different flour, and I can't remember the exact flour, but it's like traditionally you have a certain flour for the meal crepes and another flour for the dessert crepe, but I just like randomly use one another. I think the meal crepe flour is like whole wheat or something like that.
Buckwheat?
Yeah, it's a different type. It's so like in France when we use a crepe for like a meal, we call that galette, and then for dessert it's a crepe. And so the galette is more brown just because of the flour. But it's just like, it's really details because honestly, I've been eating crepes for like with anything and everything because I don't put sugar in mine. Usually when you make crepes for dessert, you can put sugar in it.
Oh.
But since I usually put like Nutella or chocolate chips or sugar powder as a filling, I don't want to add more sugar than I'm already going to add.
Right.
But it's really up to people. And like, I even know that some people like to flavor the crepe. So you can put some vanilla extract or some rum. Some people put like a teaspoon of rum. It's actually really good if you don't put too much. I know also I have a friend, her mom, she's from Britain in France, which is like east of France, and that's like the main area to get the best crepe in the entire country. And if not the entire world actually, because they're really good over there.
Oh.
And a lot of people from there use half milk, half beer.
What?
Yeah, so because you're gonna cook it, you don't smell the beer, and you usually have to buy like a really cheap beer that is not really like, you won't use a beer from the brewery, for example,
Okay.
It's has to be like that. But kind of like, I don't know, I guess like any light beer would work. Okay. And it makes the crepes less heavy. That's just like, some people prefer them like that. I really don't care. I just always use milk because I always have milk in my fridge. That's basically it. But
Wow.
so, yeah.
I'm already learning so much. So one thing I researched is it said some people believe that you need to let your batter sit for about an hour. Do you do that?
Depends how hungry I am. Honestly,
I feel like I could not have that patience, but that's just me.
some do that. It happened that I would let it for like 30 minutes just so I can tell myself, oh, that's right, I let it rest, it's fine. And honestly, I don't think it matters. I mean, some people will see a difference. I really don't. All I know is that if I let it rest, then I'm gonna have to add a little bit more milk before making cooking the crepe. But it's really up to people. I've honestly never really noticed a difference. But I know that like with bread you have to do that, but you don't have any yeast in the crepe, so you can just like, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I did not want to wait an hour when I tried
Yeah.
it. Oh, well, I'm so excited. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you think we should talk about before getting started? Anything we should know? Any French secrets to crepes?
Well, the way I learned it is that you have the order of the ingredients is important.
Oh.
Yeah, just because you want to avoid to have, like the flour blocks in your milk. How do you call that? I can, when you mix milk and flour or water and flour, you have like these blocks of flour.
Yeah.
And it's really inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, most of the time, I have some in my dough, especially if I don't use a whisk. I sometimes use a fork when I don't have a whisk somewhere, and that's a challenge. But it's not like a big deal. It's just as long as they stay like tiny. But like the best crepe you can do has like no little flour crumbs in it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I learned it, it's like you put the flour, then the eggs, then you kind of mix, and then you add the milk. And I do it without quantities. I just like put a random amount of flour, and then usually I put 2 eggs, and then I add milk. And then depending on the color of my, I guess like my dough or something, or my liquid, on the texture, that's how I judge like, oh, I should add an egg, or oh, I should add some flour, or I should add a milk. It's just like, it's really just a question of feeling. So the first thing you have to know when you make crepes for like the first time without using a real recipe is just that it's gonna be probably not the best crepe ever, but the more you'll do it, the better they will get. So it's just like, I feel like I still make mistakes sometimes. Like sometimes it's like a little bit too thick, but I'm just like, oh well, whatever, it's fine. It's as long as I can eat it, I'm fine.
Exactly. And I guess that's the thing that originally stressed me out when I asked you for the recipe, because you said, oh no, there is no recipe. But of course that stressed me out at first, because I'm like, well, then how do you know you're doing it right? But I also love that too, because it's like kind of the great thing about cooking versus baking is you can, if you make a mistake, you can just kind of change it up and fix it, as opposed to baking like you're screwed if you mess it up. So I guess I'm glad that we can kind of mess with it. I don't know. Awesome. Well, who first taught you how to make these?
I think like probably one of my parents. I remember like there is so you've heard about Mardi Gras because that's a big thing in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
But in France, we usually eat crêpe for that day. We also have a special crêpe day that we call La Chandeur. I don't know. Don't ask me about how that came up in our calendar because I have no clue. It's not a holiday, but traditionally we're like, okay, we're gonna eat crêpe that day. I have no clue where it's from. Absolutely,
I
never
did
really
research that.
Yeah.
It said that it's kind of like your Groundhog Day. It's kind of like a celebration of when spring's gonna come.
Probably, I guess. I'll believe you on that. But
I could have just made that up.
I like that big kind of dictionary cooking recipe book, and my parents, and of course there's like that recipe. So I first used that one. Probably did some with my dad. Usually my dad likes cooking crêpe. So how I learned to cook without following a recipe, at least like cooking crêpe without a recipe, was at my godmother's in the Alps.
Oh.
And her daughter, who is also a friend, like my childhood best friend, she was like, let's just make crepes. I'm like, okay, sounds good. And she's like, okay, let's take the milk, this, and I'm like, you're not using a recipe? And she's like, oh no, I'll just do it like I shot. I'm like, all right, let's do that then. And yeah, so I learned that way. And then you don't always have a measuring scale or stuff like that. So I was kind of like, oh, I want crepes. Oh, I'll just do it like I've seen it before. Just gonna judge by how it looks like and stuff. So it kind of like I learned from two people, like my friend and then basically my dad. But it was more like, and then it was like self-teaching basically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that, Clem. I think I love the fact that it's been an evolution for you. Like it's been a family memory, and then the memory of your grandma with your friend in the Alps. I mean, it just seems like no wonder you love crepes so much because you just have such fun memories of them. And I just think it makes it so special.
And it's also like really easy to make. And like the reason, like, don't get me wrong, I like pancakes. It's good, but I prefer crepe just because you can eat much more. They last like they heavy, but they're less heavy than pancakes. So you can actually spend like an hour eating crepe and be totally fine after.
That's so true. And I guess I love the idea that you can fill them with absolutely anything. Like you can just see what's in your fridge or your pantry and then just make this beautiful meal or dessert out of it. I just love that.
Yeah.
Do you remember last year when we had that random weekend off and we went to the mountain cabin and we all brought anything we could find? And so someone brought mac and cheese. Someone brought, I don't remember, it was like this bag of Cheetos. We had some random like meat. I don't even remember what we had. And then you brought the crepes. And I think you just like had your own plate of them because you thought all of our American food was disgusting. But I just remember you just like piled on the peanut butter. And that was the first time I tried one of yours. And I just said, Clem, I don't think I want to eat that. That just looks really sugary. No. And I tried it and it was amazing. So that is definitely my fondest memory so far of you and your crepes. And I can't wait to see how you make them.
Yeah, and usually, like Randy makes fun of me when I make that. So many of my friends call that thing pancakes just to tease me.
Josh
I don't mind
that.
but there is a big difference between the two. In my opinion, it's different. But
you're getting upset right now, and no one's even taunting you. Oh, I know. We definitely made fun of you a little bit, but it's all in good fun because we love you.
Yeah.
Well, let's get started. Let's see how you make them.
Yeah. So, okay. So like I told you, I'm going to put a random amount of flour.
Okay.
I don't know. I usually just put like the bottom of the bowl just as a start. It's a good start usually.
Okay. Looks like maybe a few cups.
Yeah. There. There. I don't know. That looks pretty good. So it's like really crumbly. You can whisk your flour a little bit, you know, just to make it less crumbly. I know how to say it, but all right. And then you have to form like a hole in the middle, like kind of like a well in the middle of your flour. I mean, it's not important, but I always do it. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah, I can see. Perfect.
There.
Nice.
So like,
That's a good looking well.
I usually start with 2 eggs. Just because I know that usually 1 egg will just be a really little amount of flour, so.
Okay.
The size of the eggs also doesn't matter that much. I mean, it really just depends. If you have enough flour, if you have like a good amount of flour and milk, then the size of the eggs won't matter.
Okay.
Because you can always adjust. I usually mix a little bit, but not like a crazy lot because it's, you know, egg and flour. It's not easy to mix, but then I'm adding milk.
That makes me so nervous.
Kind of like the same, like also a random amount of milk. Usually I'm trying to like not completely cover everything with milk, but have like 3/4. Yeah, I guess like 3/4 of milk compared to the amount of flour I have.
Okay. And what consistency are you looking for now as you whisk it together?
So you want like, you know the consistency of waffles? Have you made waffles?
Yeah.
So you want it basically, I would say like a little bit more liquid than the consistency of flour.
Okay. That makes sense.
And it's like usually about the consistency, I'm kind of like also judging when I make the first crepe, if I can spread it easily, if I can spread like the liquid easily in the pan, then I'm good. If it's kind of like viscous, then I know I need a little bit more milk than what I had already. So
I'm already so excited. I'm sorry if you can hear Hazel in the background. She's just going to town on this bone.
it's fine.
Can you hear her?
No, I cannot hear her.
Oh, good. Okay. I was self-conscious about it.
I have Percy under the table ready to up the floor.
Does Percy lick up your like flour that's fallen on the floor? Because that's what my dog.
Oh yeah.
I think
He loves the flour. It's
Okay,
like
good. That makes me feel
it's
better.
the most tasteless thing in the world, but he still loves it.
Okay, good. I thought it was just my weirdo dog.
No, he just like every time I drop some flour, he's like, "Oh, give me."
It's for me. It's for me. Ooh, look how smooth that's getting.
Yeah. That's always like, I'm always like, I don't know if I should put more milk or not at that point. That's like the consistency where I'm like, I don't really know what I should do, but it's no biggie. It's easy to check your consistency with a spoon.
Okay. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Is that good?
I'm going to put a little bit more milk.
Okay.
Because right now the consistency is too much like the consistency of a waffle.
Okay. So you want it thinner than that.
Yeah. Right now I have only a very few crumbs and they're really, really tiny. So I'm like, it will be fine.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you don't have, you know, like big chunks,
Mm-hmm.
because then like your crepes is not going to be good at all. You're fine. If you have a KitchenAid, like at my parents, I usually use the KitchenAid because that thing is really useful to have absolutely no crumb, you know, like almost none. So
I'm surprised that wouldn't overwork the batter.
Oh, it doesn't really matter.
That's good to know. That takes the pressure away.
Yeah, I know that like in some baking stuff, it matters how much you work your dough, but here it's just like liquid. No matter what you're gonna do, it has to be a liquid. That's why I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we're gonna skip the resting the dough part because it's, I don't consider it as being absolutely important.
Okay.
You can do it. Usually, okay, some recipe will say 30 minutes, some will say an hour. So if you have an hour, then let it rest for an hour. If you have like less than an hour, then just, really depends. But it's not like a big deal. That's what I mean.
I'm so relieved to hear that.
Some people use olive oil in the pan. Some people use nothing. I use butter, and some people use butter. It makes it better. There's like little buttery taste. You don't need to put like a big chunk of butter, but just enough to have like a really smooth pan, I guess.
Okay. Butter makes everything better, in my opinion.
Yeah, anyway. I usually put my fire on medium, just because at the very beginning, it's going to be long to cook. And then as the pan is going to get hotter, the crepes are going to like get ready faster.
Okay.
Not a problem that much because, they're really thin, so the middle is always going to be cooked. Like, you don't have to worry about that at all. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to run like making crepes, so I just like put it in medium. That works pretty well. And usually you should use like a ladle, and I don't have one here. So you always put some in the middle, and then you just rotate your pan. So that way you can really spread the dough fairly well.
Did you preheat the pan?
I don't. Some people do. I don't, just because I'm like, it's alright, it's gonna warm up as I do it. Okay. It's just like my first crepes always take forever to cook, and then after 5, 10, depends on how like good the stove is, then it's cooking like really fast. And so before flipping them, you have to wait until you kind of see the side kind of brownish. Okay. Because if you flip it too soon, that's where you're most likely to tear it, Right. Okay. And there is a say that says that usually the first 3 crepes are going to be you're going to miss them. It's always like that. But that's usually because people are not patient enough at first. Okay. So if you don't want to wait too long that your crepes cook, just preheat your pan. If you can wait for it, then you don't need to preheat it.
Good to know.
Do you see that it's a little bit brown right here?
Yeah, and the top looks dry.
Yeah, and so that's when you can actually flip it. All right, wait.
You're gonna flip it?
Yeah. So when you want to flip them, the trick is that you have to slide your crepes like this. Some of it has to be outside of the pan. And then you just really do a little wrist movement. Okay. This.
That was thrilling.
It's just, you don't have to do like a big jump. It's really just your wrist. You just really do this.
You make it look so easy.
Well, I mean, I learned that, but really the important part is to put can be up to half of the crepe outside of the pan. Okay. That make it easier for you to flip it. So in movies, they just flip it right out of the pan. They're lying. It doesn't work like that. I tried multiple times.
I love that you're calling him out.
Yeah.
But you're French. You probably learned how to do this in the womb.
Yeah, I learned that. Actually, I didn't learn that from my dad. I learned it from my friend in the Alps.
I need to go to the Alps, learn a bunch of shit.
They have really good cheese over there. Better like have you hiking or skiing stuff with you. Otherwise, you're gonna gain like 50 pounds.
Good to know.
It's always how it feels when I go skiing over there. It's like, oh my God. I'm glad I'm skiing because, oh my God.
Oh.
So usually I just use a little spatula to just check how the bottom part is. And when it's like this is good.
Okay.
It's kind of like the same on top. So I just have to slide it. And ta-da!
Yay!
And so I usually do 2 or 3 crepes without adding more butter.
Okay.
Just because the pan usually keeps the butter fairly well. But it really depends on what kind of pan you have and stuff like that. So I know that with this one I can do 2 crepes without adding butter. Then it's not a big deal if you don't add butter. It's just like they're gonna be kind of I know the texture is gonna be a little bit different when you're gonna eat them. More like they will more likely crack. With them if you put butter. So
I'd rather just add butter and call it a day.
Yeah. I know that like my dad adds butter between each. I just do like after 2 or 3, depends. Like in Laramie, we have a really good pan, so I do like each 3 crepes. Here, that pan is a little bit old, so.
I can see that. How often do you make these?
I don't know. Probably once or twice a month at least.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I made some like 2 weeks ago.
I love it. So how many crepes does this batter make?
Well, that's a good question. I usually have like, for that amount, I usually have between 15 and 20. I think.
And how many can you eat? Realistically.
How many crepes I eat?
Yeah.
Depends
Like
how
4.
hungry I am, but I can easily eat up to 10 crepes, that's for sure. Just because, you know, if I'm really hungry, if I haven't eaten anything before, oh yeah, I'll just go with 10.
Oh, that's looking beautiful. So what do you think you're going to fill yours with today?
Nutella, for sure.
Of course, you are obsessed with Nutella.
Yeah, and then I have chocolate chips, so I may do one with chocolate chips. So some people put like tons of fillings, toppings in it. I don't. I prefer just putting one thing at a time. I remember when was it? That was 2 summers ago. So I did crepes. We like all the interns decided to meet up for like just eat all together, and I made crepes for dessert. And like they would put like strawberries, Nutella, whipped cream. You're supposed to be able to close your crepe. There is a problem. You put too much.
It was like an ice cream sundae crepe.
Yeah, it was just they were putting so much. And I would be like there with my little thin crepes with only just one thing in it. But what you can do, and that's what they usually do in like crepe restaurant in France, you know, you put one filling and then on top you close it, and then on top they usually put whipped cream or some salted caramel sauce or something like that, you know.
I read an article that said that in France, Americans like to have like bacon or ham and egg in theirs. And in France, that's considered something you would have not for breakfast, but for dinner. Is that something you think?
Yeah, we don't really have like proteins, like meat for breakfast.
Did you guys hear that? Breakfast? Can you say that again?
Yeah, breakfast. I know, I'm working on it. Okay.
I love you. No, never
It's the
change.
first meal of the day, so we have first.
It makes perfect sense. You are right. We should all say it that way. Never change, Clem. Never change.
I never really picked up that I was saying that one until one of my friends that I met last semester. He loves when I say it, and so he teased me about it a lot. And then one of the new employees here, same thing. Since he realized that, he would just, yeah, it's something. You know, I'm not claiming I don't have a perfect accent, and it makes it more fun, you know.
It makes it so much more fun. That's part of your charm, Clem.
I'll show you. I'll put it on the computer. Like a little bit outside.
Mm-hmm.
Look.
That is beautiful.
But it's not too bad. I think only a few. So you have to make sure that your cap is really not sticking to the pan, because it happened to me that I would flip it and then only half of it was flipped because the other half was like still kind of sticking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the one before that I didn't flip it just because I didn't put butter, so it was still like not sticking, but not super well not sticking. So yeah,
That makes sense.
just like how you feel and stuff like that, but it's really important to have like a part of the crepe outside of the pan. That makes it so much easier.
Thank you for that tip. Yeah. That's kind of like when you have pizza dough on a pizza peel, and if you don't have enough cornmeal or flour down, and you go to put it in the oven and it sticks, and it like just won't go in.
Yeah.
Like it's just so important to check to make sure that it's shaking well. So I'll definitely keep that in mind.
See, Percy is like right next to me right now, waiting for any little drops of something on the floor.
Oh. Oh, hi, Percy. What a cutie. Remember when he was 10 pounds?
Oh yeah, he's like 30 something now, if not 40. He's not super big. He's still kind of small, but that was the point of getting a mini Ossis, that he would stay small.
Right.
Like the perfect size, honestly. Like I can see him whenever he runs somewhere. Like I cannot really lose him out of sight. And then he's doing fine in the apartment too.
Good.
So it's like a really good size. I won't complain.
He's so cute.
Yeah, he's a sweetie. He loves like cuddling in the morning, cuddling at night. He loves chewing on everything he can find, which makes him sick every time. It's okay. He doesn't get that.
So when you fill them, do you fold them in half, or do you make them into more of a triangle?
I like roll them. Some people do like triangles. You know, they like they like put them in half and then like fourth. I usually just roll them.
Okay. Is one way more traditional, or is it just based off of personal preference?
In restaurant, usually they fold them just because they make really like they're really large and they have really big plates, so they don't want your plate to look empty. So I would say in restaurant they fold them.
Okay.
In like at home we usually roll them.
I like that.
And so for the thickness, I don't really know. I mean, same thing. You kind of have to judge by yourself, but you really want them like really thin like this ish.
Right.
Like some of my crepes are a bit thicker than how they should be. It's not really like a big deal. As long as you don't make a pancakes, that's fine.
We're avoiding pancakes. Got it.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, my crepes are like pretty good. I mean, I like them, and usually people like them too. But I just really learned they weren't like my first crepe were not that good. That's what I mean. Like, I can give you a recipe, but then you have to practice, and you really have to just get to know which really temperature works and stuff like that. It's really just up to you.
Okay. I will practice all week long.
I kind of like, that's why I like crepes, because it's just up to you at all time. And it's
I love that.
fairly easy to make. You don't need like tons of ingredients. You don't need tons of utensils. You don't need to be careful about any timeline and stuff. It's just like, just do however you feel it. And
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I love that. Thank you, Clem.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for showing me how to make them. I cannot wait to try this week, and I will send you tons of pictures. Keep me updated and send me pictures of the ranch because everything looks so beautiful there.
Yeah, we had some snow again, so it's like kind of snowy, muddy, but it sounded really pretty. So I'll send you pictures.
Oh, please do. Oh, I miss you. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. Enjoy your day.
You too. We'll talk soon. Enjoy your crepe.
Oh, I will.
Bye.
Bye.